Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Douglas Blakey, the Group Editor, Banking and Payments at Global Data PLC, and I'm delighted to be your host for this session. We're very pleased to have you with us today as we explore what multinational corporations do in Dubai International Financial Centre, the DIFC, and why. Our guest speakers from DIFC today are Sheetal Soni, partner at MI Capital Services; Halib Alabdab, head public and government affairs, UAE, at Boehringer Ingelheim; and Salman Jaffrey, the chief business development officer at the DIFC Authority. Just by way of a quick bio of today's speaker, Sheetal Soni is a seasoned finance professional with over 20 years of expertise across strategic and corporate finance, M&A, debt, taxation, and wealth management. He has raised over $8 billion through innovative financing and advisory solutions across global markets, and currently he serves as a partner at MICS, where he drives value for businesses and family offices, and his expertise covers investments, valuations, due diligence, tax structuring, compliance, and multi-asset wealth strategies. And he's recognized as a leading advisor in M&A, tax and structuring, and a thought leader. He's known for blending technical excellence with clarity, simplicity, and impact. Turning to Halib, he's an experienced commercial, governmental affairs and communications professional with over 15 years working in the pharmaceuticals industry. He's skilled in governmental affairs, marketing strategy, digital marketing, media relations, strategic communications, and corporate communications, both internal and external. And finally, Salman. He's the Chief Business Development Officer for the DIFC. He's a member of the management team. He's responsible for overseeing the DIFC client portfolio as well as its growth strategy. He has over 25 years' experience in North America, Asia, Middle East, and North Africa, and has had leadership roles at global firms such as Oliver Wyman, Citibank, Amex, PwC. He holds an MBA from Cornell University and a BA in International Relations from Colgate University in the US, and he serves on a number of boards. Today's webinar is brought to you by DIFC, as we'll hear today, one of the world's most advanced financial centres. It's the leading financial hub for the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. Now, that comprises 77 countries, population of about 3.7 billion, and an estimated GDP of around 10.5 trillion US dollars. The DIFC has got a 21-year track record of facilitating trade and investment flows across the region. The centre connects these fast-growing markets with the economies of Asia, Europe, and the Americas through Dubai. And as we'll hear today, DIFC is home to an internationally recognized independent regulator, a proven financial system with an English common law framework, as well as the region's largest financial ecosystem. That comprises over 46,000 professionals working across almost 7,000 active registered companies, making up the largest and most diverse pool of industry talent in the region. The centre's vision is to drive the future of finance through cutting-edge technology, innovation, and partnerships. And today, its Global Future of Finance and Innovation Hub offers one of the region's most comprehensive AI, fintech, and venture capital environments, including cost-effective licensing solutions, fit-for-purpose regulation, innovative accelerator programs, and funding for growth stage startups. And of course, Dubai hosts and is renowned for its retail and dining venues, the dynamic art and culture scene, residential apartments, hotels, and public spaces, and DIFC itself continues to be one of Dubai's most sought-after business and lifestyle destinations. Just two quick housekeeping points. I promise they're quick. This webinar is browser-based. If you become disconnected, simply click the link you received via email to rejoin. And for any technical issues, please use the help widget. And for additional resources, explore the related content box. And secondly, questions. If you have questions, and questions are very, very welcome, please submit them via the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. I'll do my best to get through as many of the questions as we can. Now, just before I turn to Sheetal to kick off the discussion, a quick video.
You're muted, Douglas.
You're on mute, Douglas.
Thank you, schoolboy error. Great tagline. The future is here. Sheetal, can I turn to you first? In your opinion, what are some of the key factors that continue to make the UAE such an attractive hub for doing business?
Thank you, Douglas. First of all, DIFC is completing 21 years of its business and existence, and I am here in UAE for 21 years as well. I just realized, while watching this. So it has been, quite a journey as far as me is concerned, as far as UAE has been a concern. I used to work for an industrial zone in Abu Dhabi called Kizad in 2010. Earlier, the selling points of the industrial zone used to be the three, and the three selling points that they had was always ease of doing business, global connectivity, which is covering the 2/3 of the world population in 8 hours of flying different distance, and the low utility cost for them. What I have seen over the period of time during last 10-15 years since the launch of that free zone is that safety, security, quality of living and all has improved in UAE, but also the compliance environment has evolved in UAE as well. The acceptability of this jurisdiction, apart from those, factors that were important always, there has been a global push on the compliance side from OECD and from the various initiatives that OECD is pushing towards. There is a kind of a tussle that is going on between the shell and the substance. The shell jurisdictions are being cornered by various initiatives that OECD is pushing, and the jurisdictions which are of the real substance are gaining more and more traction and momentum. UAE has done a tremendous job since the introduction of indirect taxes in UAE. An indirect taxes regime is now very well settled, and the introduction of direct taxes with the corporate taxes in UAE. This evolution continues where UAE is trying to keep three major pillars aligned, and those three major pillars are its competitiveness, by keeping the tax rates are very low. The second is compliance, keeping the OECD happy. And the third one is substance. This is where this is the most important point where UAE seems to be winning the game. Compared to shell jurisdictions like BVI, Caymans, and many others. So this, it's not easy keeping your wife happy and at the same time your mother-in-law happy. So, but UAE is trying to do the job very well at the same time.
And Salman, from your perspective, I mean, I would rather look forward than back. You've got the tagline about the future, but just very quickly looking back to set the background. This year it is 21 years. You've come of age, and the annual report sets out very clearly record-breaking results in 2024, a record first half of 2025, solidifying DIFC's position as the region's leading global financial centre. Why do you think so many multinationals choose DIFC as their regional HQ instead of other free zones?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Douglas, for hosting, and thank you to Global Data for this amazing opportunity to speak with all of you. Look, I think I'd start by just pointing out that on this very call we have a global multinational corporation, we have a global technology company, we have a regional tax specialist, all talking about what's important to them. And I think that manifests kind of the evolution of the center, right? In our title, we have kind of two key giveaways. One is the D, which is for Dubai, and Dubai's story, I think, is globally well known. And then the other piece is the evolution of what it means to be a financial center. And so we are now a financial center that has, sorry, AI is now picking up my voice on my phone. And we are a financial center that has several thousand multinational companies that are not financial services. And what that means essentially is that to create economic value and GDP growth and jobs, which is our mandate in our 21-year history, we have to serve an increasingly sophisticated regional and global clientele. That those concentric circles at the core obviously are financial services. But in order to create the value, we have to do a lot more. And so what you find is this incredible rich ecosystem where you have at least a rich layer of institutions that service and serve financial institutions, without which you can't do financial services. So the lacks of tax specialists like MICS and other global advisories. But then it turns out that the interplay between multinational corporations and financial services and service providers is essential. So for example, you may have a regional multinational company. I won't speak on behalf of Boehringer. I'll let them speak for themselves. But that company might have a need to raise capital. It may have a need to structure a regional business. It may have the objective of tax optimization. It may want to recruit regionally for a Middle Eastern or Africa business. All of those things taken together can be served from a place like DIFC. So to answer your question, as Dubai moved out of being a frontier market to being an emerging market, so did the evolving role of the DIFC, where we started off as a financial center, and we've become a global financial center of scale, but also a massive business center. And this is a function of changing economic and talent forces around the globe. I'll pause there.
Thank you. And turning to Khaled, and Salman mentioned Boehringer Ingelheim. Yes, it was a slight understatement to say multinational. Khaled, your firm's active in 130 markets, over 52,000 employees specializing in human pharma, animal health, and biopharmaceutical manufacturing. You're really ideally placed to comment on which markets are business friendly and offer the best environments in which to invest. What, in your opinion, are some of the key benefits of being active in this market?
I'll unmute first, so it's my turn to unmute. Thanks, Douglas, for the question. Allow me first to express my gratitude for the opportunity of being part of this esteemed panel. For those who may not be familiar, we are one of these companies that Salman was referring to as non-financial companies. Boehringer Ingelheim is one of the world's largest research-driven pharmaceutical companies. We are family owned since the foundation of the company back in 1885. And yes, it's 18. That's not a mistake. So we're over 100 years now. And we are committed to delivering breakthrough therapies that transform lives today and for generations to come. Now, Dubai, and specifically the DIFC, is the home of our IMETA region headquarters. IMETA for us stands for India, Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. So from the IFC, we manage operations across 70 countries, dealing with over 1,600 employees coming from 45 nationalities. And back to your question, Douglas, about the key benefits of being active in the UAE market, or in other words, why the UAE? Basically and simply, because the UAE offers a uniquely supportive environment for global companies like Boehringer Ingelheim, be it the visionary leadership, the geopolitical stability, or even the eagerness to diversify the economy. This, for a multinational, ensures predictability of business. It ensures business sustainability, but also resilience. Now, the fact that UAE is also between the East and West, that strategic location, definitely makes it an efficient location for multinational companies to have their businesses. And complementing what Sheetal was mentioning, one of the key things, so Sheetal, you've been here for 21 years. I was born in Abu Dhabi. So I have seen Kizad, the area of Kizad that was a desert and now became something. The IFC was not there when I was born. So I have seen, and we can all witness, the world-class infrastructure here in the UAE. This infrastructure allows all businesses in all industries to really thrive. And one key factor as well is that the UAE is becoming the home for global talents. This supports innovation, supports businesses accelerating their industries and their work. Basically, in a simple word, Douglas, the environment that the UAE is offering fosters a secure and an innovation-driven business climate. And this is a dream come true for any investor or any business. And we're one of them.
Thank you, Khalid. Sheetal, returning to you, you work extensively in areas of wealth, taxation, structuring. From a structuring standpoint, what are the most important considerations when firms are looking to establish, say, a family office or a holding company in the UAE, and particularly within DIFC?
Yeah, Douglas, it's a very important question. If I, broadly categorize the types of people chasing UAE and DIFC at this point of time that we are seeing from our, experience, is mainly the first class of people is the family offices, UHNIs, wanting to set up their structures for their personal wealth. The large corporates for the holding company structures, protecting their IPs, creating a headquarters services, financing and treasury services and all that. And the third set of people are the, wealth industry, the people who are providing wealth management services, fund management services and all that. Apart from, of course, many other licenses, insurance, banking and others. But between the three, the first set of people, the HNIs, UHNIs, they're always trying to address the three flying birds. I call them as three flying birds. And for them, the three flying birds are wealth, be it business or personal wealth. The second is succession, structures that continues beyond one's lifetime. And the third one is taxes. And when you are in UAE and a global city like UAE, the taxes tends to become very complicated in today's world. You have local taxes, personal taxes, withholding taxes, DTAs, estate taxes when you are a global investors in some other part of the world and all that. And when you have to look for a structure, you cannot create different structures addressing the different birds, right? You have to create one structure addressing all the birds that you are trying to address. And things become more complicated, particularly when you are also trying to ring fence your liabilities, when you are trying to put secrecy into effect and all that. So looking at all that, the world is now shrinking, and the options in the world are also, and UAE has been able to demonstrate, of course, with DIFC with 21 years of life cycle is a very mature jurisdiction. When it comes to taxes, there are a lot of efforts UAE is trying to bring in with the introduction of taxes, and the DTA network that UAE has got is with 140 countries. In comparison, you have Singapore around 70 countries, Switzerland around 100 odd countries, Luxembourg around 60 odd countries. So there's been a different part of the ecosystem, be it FTA, be it the regulator, and of course the common law. I mean, in the introduction you mentioned about DIFC is offering common law. So you're not surprised to deal with any regulatory framework or the legal framework which is different from probably where you're used to see that. So given all that factors, I think there are structures like foundation who are very tax efficient structure, caters for all the three flying birds, family office structures, holding companies, setting up your IP rights, with ability to have a most tax efficient structures when you get dividends, when you get capital gains arising from your subsidiaries or investments outside UAE as well. So there are a lot of structures that are being offered by DIFC, which are tax efficient as well, succession efficient as well, and the compliance efficient as well.
You're the tax expert, so let's just get tax out of the way just now because it is important. And I'm sure Salman and Halib won't mind if I just discuss tax with you for a couple of minutes. With the introduction of corporate tax, to what extent are the UAE free zones and specifically the DIFC's licensing and structures insulated from the new tax regime?
So there's a quote from Charlie Munger, and I love that quote. He once said that a young educated man knows the rules, but a wise old man knows the exceptions. So to the rules. So UAE, certainly there is a tax introduced in UAE, corporate tax, which is relatively new as well. So it is evolving. However, there is a lot of giveaways, lot of tax exemptions that are offered by the regulatory framework as well, and not only to DIFC but to free zone in general. But a lot of structures in DIFC also has got certain tax exemptions. For example, you have wealth management industry. If you are a wealth manager, you get complete tax benefits, 0% tax rate. If you are a fund manager, the fund management services got a tax exemption as well. The fund itself is a tax efficient structure. Then you have got foundations, special exemption for foundation to be treated as a pass-through structure from a corporate tax perspective. In addition, if you are a holding company, as I mentioned, there are in international tax arena, there is something called participation exemption regime, which gives you the exemption related to dividends that you receive from your investments in UAE, as well as any subsidiaries or investments that you have outside the UAE. Also, capital gain taxes. If you are somebody who is holding certain investment for a period of 12 months or more. Suppose if you are a startup investor and you invest in a startup with $1 million and you sell the startup after 5 years for say $10 million, the whole $9 million is potentially tax exempt if you if you meet all other conditions as well. So similarly, IP rights, if you develop the research and development in UAE and you charge royalties related. So there are a lot of exemptions that are in place, and the devil is in the detail. Once you know the detail, you will be able to get it. So and which is something that is attracting lot of global family offices, holding companies to this part of the world.
Well, let's get off tax quickly. But other than tax, what are some of the key factors that businesses that are looking to invest in the UAE ought to take into account?
So it's very important to remember that when any investor or any business is about to open, they need to assess different angles before taking a final decision or establishing their premises in a certain location. And the UAE in general, and the DIFC in particular, serve as a great example of how they create a highly enabling environment. So Sheetal mentioned all the incentives and around taxes. So that's the financial perspective. But there is also a legal perspective, and that legal and regulatory certainty is essential. And DIFC, basically, with its independent legal system based on English common law, ensures that transparency and investor protection. But there is also an operational aspect that needs to be considered. How easy it is for me to set up, how easy and streamlined is that registration or licensing processes. How strategic is my location? How can I connect to different investors? Am I having access to a talent or an innovation hub? So how close and how easy it is for me to attract different professionals from different industries. And there is also that aspect that we also think of at the end, we're in Dubai. So lifestyle is by itself one of the perspectives that we need to consider when opening businesses. And the infrastructure in general, how the IFC ensured that we have this integrated ecosystem is really something that ensures employee satisfaction, but also supports long-term growth. So beyond tax, as you were mentioning, these also factors are to be considered. And I think that the IFC just ticks boxes one after the other.
Thanks. Salman, we saw some numbers in the video about the DIFC ecosystem. I think it's 23 of the world's largest 25 banks, 289 banks in total, 135 insurers flashed up on the screen, if I caught that right. Big growth in the number of insurers and reinsurers last year, growing in DIFC. And the wealth and asset management sector, including hedge funds and family offices, have enjoyed phenomenal growth as well. How does this ecosystem of banks and advisors benefit corporates?
Yeah, so let's back up a little bit. I mean, Ghalib and Sheetal are spot on. They've articulated the core premise for the platform. So the only thing I'll say there is that regulatory certainty, recourse, contractual recourse, the rule of law, business and economic stability, these are hygiene factors. You cannot be a global jurisdiction without that. So assuming that that is done, and I think we've done an admirable job there, everything else is a function of value add, right? And so one of the beauties of these conversations is I have the privilege of working with colleagues and my clients, because our clients are really incredible. And we are incredibly market and client driven, which means what? It means a few things. It means that we're consistently looking at some of the, for example, the taxation regimes globally to ensure that this jurisdiction continues to attract people who can help clients solve new and complicated problems. Listen, it's tough enough to manage a tax regime when you haven't had one, right? And to start from scratch. And there's a lot of open-ended questions. And what we try and do working with colleagues like Sheetal and Ghalib, of course, is to problem solve. So we're very client oriented, right? Second thing we have to do pretty consistently is we have to maintain a content-rich, solution-oriented, highly technical ecosystem. While I think you mentioned that we are a destination of choice for lifestyle, and by the way, not unimportant. It's actually very important to create the conditions where clients can take care of their clients and conduct business and work and live in the same place. That's actually very important. But aside from that, what we want to see is we want to see our clients create value for themselves and have market access. And so the way you do that is not just the physical environment, but it's also the regulatory and content environment. So there isn't a day or a week during the year that there isn't some kind of substantive and technical engagement with the community on a topic, not what Salman wants or what the DIFC wants, but what our clients want, right? If there's a new wrinkle in the tax regime, we mobilize our ecosystem to address it. If there's a new concern on talent or mobility or visas, we mobilize the ecosystem to address it. If there are new concerns or feedback from the community on how to do transfer pricing differently or how to consolidate treasury centrally better, right, we engage. And so the long-winded answer to your rather short question is we try and create the environment where the ecosystem, all the components, financial services, non-financial services, and technical services come together in a way that creates value. Ultimately, Douglas, it's very competitive globally. And if Dubai is to achieve its D33 ambition of becoming a top 4 global financial center, right? We absolutely have to continue to elevate how we treat our clients and the environment that we create. Otherwise, we're not going to get the kind of growth that we've enjoyed.
So no danger of complacency. As you say, the global market, the market for global talent is extremely competitive. Ambitious professionals want a luxurious lifestyle, but they want it at an affordable price. So it is a core aim for DIFC to continue to attract global talent, young professionals.
Yeah, I mean, spot on. Look, my colleagues on this panel are well aware of the fact that talent and capital, right, are mobile and fungible, and and so it is never a given that capital of any particular kind, whether it's institutional or private capital in particular, or talent, will necessarily stay in one place unless we create and replicate and continue the conditions that um, make those sustainable. So one key feature, right? I mean, what's the inflection point currently? The inflection point I would submit to you in the audience, right? Here in Dubai and DIFC was right after COVID, right? And so through a series of very successful interventions at COVID and right after COVID, we were able to create the conditions where we delivered safety, security, and stability to the citizens of UAE and to the citizens of Dubai and DIFC at a time at which that was not the case in different parts of the world. Okay. And we created the conditions that allowed people to say it is possible, right, to have your cake and eat it. You can create safety and security without necessarily compromising the ambition to grow, to create value, to have open markets. One last thing I'll say, Douglas, is I think what differentiates us is the only way that you can be client-focused and client-centric is to not enforce on our clients any particular point of view or not have conditions on our clients. So we are a very market-driven and competitive environment. What that means is it is our job, it's my job to ensure that the product and the offering, right, is adding value. We don't create conditions or we don't have requirements or if you come here, you will get this. We don't compete that way. We compete on the basis that our clients have absolute free choice. Sheetal, Ghalib, they can set up business wherever they want to, right? As they should. That's the way markets work. Our job is to make sure we're giving them those best options.
Now, the UAE itself is attractive, of course, for multinationals offering a highway for the entire Middle East, Africa, and Asia. I get that. That's a simple point, I think. But within Dubai itself, DIFC really couldn't be better placed now. I'm thinking back when you launched, this is before the red line and the red metro line, so that dates me. Now you're in a great place. Why does location matter so much?
Sorry, let me unmute. Just to clarify, you're referring to actual physical location, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I've learned a few things on the job. I come from financial services and consulting, and it turns out that physical ecosystem, where you are at any particular point in time, and what access you have to infrastructure, both people and entertainment and services is very important. Okay, it turns out that you cannot create clusters of 48,000 people who, by the way, could work anywhere in the world, right? In New York, in London, Singapore, anywhere, but choose to be here. You can't do that unless the physical space gives you access to things that other places can't. So, for example, the DIFC today, where we are, is I can't think of a financial center that's that close to an airport, right? I mean, we have an international clientele, people who run global books of business, both in multinational spaces such as pharmaceuticals or consumer goods or banking, right, or tax, who run their businesses from here. You can't do that, right, unless you have easy access in and out. We're blessed by the fact that the D in DIFC Dubai has one of the best, we think the best airport in the world and the best airlines in the world. I mean, those things beyond a tourism line actually have real value when you make note of the fact that, for example, there is not a single airline in the world that has as extensive an access to the African continent as Emirates, right? And so if you are a Chinese state-owned enterprise or a bank or a multinational that's covering Africa, where are you going to do it from, right? Both regulatorily and physically. It's here, right? And there are many other such examples. So I think you kind of get what I'm communicating.
Yeah. Going back to Sheetal quickly. Sheetal, drawing on your experience in debt and M&A across the whole region, looking ahead, what do you see are the key opportunities and challenges as the ecosystem continues to evolve?
This uh, I feel that if you go and talk to your dad one day that I'm gonna change overnight, he's old enough and mature enough to say that it's not possible overnight. It is over time. Things changes. So as we travel through this transition that is happening in UAE, which is unprecedented in my view, the whole ecosystem at one point of time will fall in place together. You have, if I go to DIFC today, I'll find banks from all over the world. You name the country, you will find a rep office, at least of the bank, hosted by DIFC. Almost around, I don't know the numbers, but my guess is around 150, 200 global banks are hosted by DIFC, apart from the regional banks. Now, when you are offering family offices, fund managers, hosting all the capital, the flow of capital that is happening to Africa, the flow of capital that is happening in Asia region, it is going through this narrow corridor of UAE. It used to go through narrow corridors of, say, Singapore, also London, to the wider jurisdiction. So whenever this thing happens, we have seen that the jurisdiction or the location becomes a global hub for capital markets, for M&A activities. As Salman was mentioning, it attracts professionals like us, M&A professionals, lawyers, and all that. And as we see this evolving, I feel that the market will gain a lot of depth during the course of next 5-10 years. There has been, I mean, and when people always say that UAE is a very shallow market. Yes, indeed, UAE is a shallow market. If you see UAE only as a market, that's where the problem lies sometimes when people look at it. When you are in cities like UAE, Singapore, or London, the world is the market for you. You have to see the subcontinent, you have to see the Africa region and the activities that are happening in these regions. People don't want to set. I mean, we get clients where they are acquiring entities in India, for example, but they set up holding companies before they acquire the entity or that subsidiary, in India. They will set up a holding company in UAE because they got free capital controls. There are no capital controls. You can move in and out. There are no currency, issues as well, the stability as far as the currency regime is concerned. And then you get access to a lot of, a lot of global banks and the financial institutions as well. So all of this is a process that we are seeing, which is the process of maturity, and it is only going, better and better.
Salman, one of the subjects that banking journalists like me around the world are covering increasingly is the unprecedented generational wealth transfer that's ahead of us. We're talking about serious money here, upwards of $1 trillion and counting. I said last year was a record year for DIFC, and one of the reasons for that success was because it's an increasingly popular destination for private wealth management, family offices. What are some of the recent big wins for multinational corporations in this sector that you can mention?
Well, I mean, I'll stay away from specific names because we end up missing a few and upsetting people. But look, I think the larger point is this, right? We have on this very call a global multinational corporation that is privately owned, and we have, as Sheetal mentioned, a highly evolving capital landscape. So what that effectively means is that the entire story is gaining depth. 10 years ago, the only capital that people were really talking about in the region, I'm exaggerating a little bit, was sovereign capital, right? For obvious reasons, whenever oil prices were robust, we were in surplus, right? And so that capital got deployed globally. But since then, the story has changed quite significantly. A few things have happened. The first thing is we've had a significant increase in institutional capital that is very sophisticated, that deploys capital regionally and globally in ways no different than any other developed market. And then thirdly, we've seen an absolutely unparalleled change and inflow of private and capital, including kind of family wealth. Family wealth used to be the domain of regional markets. Since COVID, what we've seen is preserving, managing, transferring wealth is now a global enterprise, primarily because of the need to diversify, right? So that is applying globally. So we're seeing families from around the globe for different reasons that we can get into coming in here. And then we're seeing regional families continue to institutionalize and ensure that the succession planning for these incredibly amazing businesses in the region that have created billions of dollars of wealth, that is passed on in Gen 2 and Gen 3. And one last point I'll make is the innovation hub that we have, which has north of 1,300 companies. What's really nice to see is that a significant number of individuals who are there are either funded by Gen 3 from families or are the results of Gen 3 members from families starting up businesses themselves. So it's a really, really interesting time.
Thanks. I'm conscious of time. Time is flying by, which is a good sign, I suppose. But I want to get questions from the audience. Thank you for the questions that have come in. Keep them coming. I'll do my very best. Speed up. I'll speak quickly to get through as many as we can. The first, now this might, Salman, I'm going to play safe and fire this at you, and I'm sure you'll be incredibly diplomatic, but it's a very good question from Aidan, who asks, what are the advantages of DIFC over the ADGM? So we're talking there, of course, about Abu Dhabi International Financial Centre. So without, I'm sure, wanting to say anything too harsh about regional peers, how do you answer Aidan's question? Good question.
No, it's a good question. Look, a few things. First of all, it is an amazing situation for the UAE to offer global clients multiple options. So that is a net boon for the UAE. The DIFC itself, we are 21 years old, and it should be noted that, we were, and this is something which I remind clients who visit from all parts of the world, that we're probably, in fact, the first of our kind. Before our formation, it's hard to put your finger on anything other than, let's say, Canary Wharf as a comparator. And Canary Wharf obviously didn't have its own independent laws. And so what we did 21 years ago, the leadership of Dubai was incredibly brave and forward-looking to have done that. So we today, I think what distinguishes the DIFC is the fact that we are really the region's only global financial center, right? Our target is to be on behalf of Dubai, uh, up to the number four. We want to make Dubai number four and higher, of course, market in the world. And we are competing in every vertical globally. Our clientele is global, our clients are global, our talent is global. And I think as long as we continue to do that, we will create value for Dubai and for the UAE.
And a question really which I can direct to all of you. Question from Michaela in Canada. What practical first step should corporates take when evaluating DIFC?
I mean, I would love my colleagues, I would love Ghalib or Sheetal to give their views as our clients.
So I'll say that first thing is that before you evaluate any, we keep on getting this question all the time when we are facing our clients, that why UAE, why DIFC, why not ADGM, why not Singapore, why not Luxembourg, why not Cayman, why not BVI? And if you are following the world, if you are following the changes that are happening at a world stage, particularly the push that is happening at OECD level, the global minimum tax, the GMT regime, and the pillar two, uh, the multilateral institutions coordinating the sharing of information that is happening through CRS and other initiatives at a global level. You will see that the game is being played extremely well by UAE in order to establish itself as one of the compliant jurisdiction when it comes to these global multilateral institutions are concerned. And when, as Salman mentioned in one of his point, that capital and labor are very fungible. And I always say this in a different words, that capital is always chase efficiency. Yeah, the capital will always chase efficiency. It's like a water which flows, where the gravity takes it towards. So wherever there will be compliance, wherever there will be competitiveness, wherever there will be, maturity, wherever there will be predictability, wherever there will be consistencies in the rules and regulations, I think that's where that jurisdiction or that place will be the winner, in a long run. And that is something that you have to see with UAE. You are getting a tax regime which is relatively new, but there is a guarantees to that as well. Even your income corporate tax law gives you around 50 years of tax holidays. So when you are setting up here, you have to evaluate rest of the options that you have got and how the competitiveness that is being offered apart from substance and compliance that UAE is offering is a testimony that today we are seeing a great flow of people and capital here.
A question from Morton to you, Sheetal. Taxation is relatively new in the UAE. So has the regulatory and compliance framework matured sufficiently to give businesses clarity and stability?
You mentioned about maturity, you mentioned about clarity, you mentioned about stability in this question. As I in 2022, corporate tax was announced, and before 2022, 2018, VAT was introduced in UAE, and that regime is almost mature. I mean, it's a very stable regime now, VAT regime. Everyone knows what to do. It's a single tax rate, which is 5%, as opposed to multiple tax rates, which leads to a lot of litigations that we have seen in other jurisdictions. So the indirect tax regime is relatively very mature. The direct tax regime is in process of being matured. I remember a period between 2022 when it was announced. The law was around just 60 pages. We were all very excited that it is just 60 pages, but it has now evolved to around 5,000 pages. It is good and bad both, because these 5,000 pages the law has evolved is bringing lot more clarity to the regime as well. And I would say the FTA has done, UAE FTA, Federal Tax Authority, has done a commendable job in bringing that clarity. You'll be amazed to learn, if you are not following this, and if you are not part of this region, if you are not living here, that FTA not only clarifies its interpretation of the law through, guidance note, but also through real life examples. So one guidance note is followed by 5, 10, 20 examples to clarify, to bring clarity to the interpretation of the law. So that is something that is a process. As I mentioned, it never happens over time. Any such changes, it takes it never happens overnight. It happens over time. So the process of change is on, and I would say that and we are the agent of the change that is happening, particularly the tax regime. I am saying at the tax and the compliance regime, as some of the free zones, particularly like DIFC, which are 20, 21 years old, I think the compliance regime as they have is already mature, particularly from their perspective.
Thank you. And a question from Kathleen for Halib, if I can direct it to you. Candidly, how do your employees view working in DIFC? What sort of feedback do you get from them?
So thank you for the question, Kathleen. I think one common reaction from all employees working here in the DIFC and in the UAE in general is their high satisfaction. And this comes from both a professional but also a personal perspective. The professional environment that the DIFC offers is really dynamic, multicultural, innovation-driven. The workplace is really attractive and different than any other space or place. The proximity to other leading companies ensures and fosters collaboration and knowledge exchange. So that's from a professional end. But from a lifestyle and accessibility as well, especially that we're talking about employees here. In the DIFC, you have an integrated ecosystem, restaurants, wellness facilities. We at Boehringer Ingelheim have an initiative that our GM has come up with called Walk and Talk. And this Walk and Talk is the best initiative where basically best business decisions are taken, best steps are taken. So basically also from a wellness perspective, best ideas come up with. So basically we go from our 15th floor in Index Tower and we head through the Gate Avenue until the gate itself, which is at the total end of the DIFC. We have it 2 rounds where we walk and talk. So basically you cannot have such a discussion that is really active and refreshing other than in a place and in a community other than the DIFC. So that's for Kathleen. But I'll go back to the question about why the UAE, if you allow me, and I will complement what Salman was highlighting too, and what Sheetal was alluding to, by complementing something, and that's on a personal note, because I was in the UAE since day 0. I was born here. And this country was built following the guidance and the vision of its leaders. And the leaders were very vocal and have always shown delivering on what they talk about and what they aspire to become. The leaders have always committed to the innovation and openness of their economy. And whenever you have such support from the leadership, things happen. And this is only in the UAE. Simply, in a very simple expression, they have skin in the game. And accordingly, when we talk about public-private partnership, it is not a cliche that is being used. It is literally something that happens. So back to the question from Canada, why the UAE? Simply because this is the only place that if you really have something that serves the humanity, the population, whatever you have, you are at a phone call away from leaders to basically help you and have a skin in the game, bringing your ideas to fruition. This is something that we at Boehringer always do from a healthcare perspective, but I have seen and witnessed as a person who was born in the UAE, lived in the UAE across all industries. So I just wanted to allude into that because this is really personal and something I can vouch for.
Thank you. Now, I'm again looking at the clock. Salman, 4 questions from Priyansh. Can we maybe aim for one sentence answers? Well, if we can run through as quickly as we can. He asks first, is a compliance officer mandatory in every DIFC company?
I mean, the short answer is no. It depends on the nature of it. For authorized financial services, you need to have a compliance function. And so depending on the nature of the business, that you can outsource it.
Right. Next, what are the portal access requirements once the business is set up?
I'm sorry. Was that for me? Say it again. Ask the question again. Sorry.
I think it's best directed to you. Priyansh asked, what are the portal access requirements once a business is set up, and what type of office space is available in DIFC?
I'm not sure there's a one sentence answer for the first question because and the office requirements, this is a jurisdiction of substance, okay? So it is by and large the case that if you have a legal entity here, you will need some kind of presence. However, there is tremendous flexibility here in that domain, ranging from offices to flex to fixed. And there's some complexity when it comes to structuring, but that's the short answer.
Lastly, I think this is quite a straightforward one. If you had to describe DIFC in one sentence to a global board, what would it be?
It's a physical, legal, and regulatory island designed to drive job creation and business.
It's an enabler. That's my word.
Perfect. The clients know it better. 100%.
Thank you. For the last time, I'm looking at the clock. The clock has beaten me. Thank you again for your thoughtful answers. That brings us to the close of the panel discussion. A very big thank you to our speakers, Sheetal Soni, partner at MICS, Halib Alabdab, Head Public and Governmental Affairs at Boehringer Ingelheim, and Salman Jaffrey, the Chief Business Development Officer at the DIFC